There are people who live in a world where all the male faces are the same and all the female faces are the same. The only way to tell them apart is their hair. One winter, a few people got ill. The news said it was bat flu. Bats had been landing on people's heads and perching there. The news said if a bat defecated on your head, you could die from bat flu. Some people who had been defecated on by bats were dying, but people did sometimes die that time of year anyway from normal flu. The government said everyone had to wear blue hats to protect themselves from getting bat flu. Some people wore the blue hats, had bats defecate on their heads, and still got bat flu. Some people didn't wear the hats, had bats defecate on their heads, and some got bat flu, while some didn't. So, to people with critical thinking, it was really unclear if the hats made any difference. The news demanded everyone wear the hats or they would be risking catching bat flu and giving it to others. Later studies showed wearing the hats could cause problems with learning communication skills because these people use their hair to communicate. Children learning these skills at school were particularly affected. There was a group of people with red hats who were at war with a group of people with green hats. They were winning the war. It wasn't really a war. They were just blowing most of them up with little resistance, though they did lose a few men now and again. The red hats couldn't kill all the green hats because the people with no hats would think they were the bad ones. So they created a system where countries with no hats in charge had to take the green hats in and pay for them to survive and not allow them to work. The green hats did want to work, but were not legally allowed. A small group of people with no hats got annoyed that they were being taxed by their government, which paid to feed and house the green hats. These no hats were so stupid, they didn't realize the problem was the government wouldn't allow the green hats to work and gave them free money. They thought the green hats were the problem. Furthermore, the red hats were facilitating a legal framework to allow the green hats to get in without the stamp cards people of that land normally needed to enter a different area. The red hats were also supplying the boats through shell companies, not directly connected to them, with enough distance so it wasn't provable it was them. But the people who connected the dots were labeled conspiracy theorists. The news and the government were paid off by red hat lobbyists, so they backed the red hats' play. Some people with no hats started protesting with no hat flags. They were happy with blue and red hats, but they said, if these green hats are walking around with hats, we don't know who is who. They could commit crimes, and we can't identify them. Some of them were wearing blue hats while protesting to hide their identities. Some had black hats. Most countries allowed all hats, but one country of no hats banned green hats while still allowing blue and red hats. The main reason was that two social media people, Janet and Joe, hated that they had to allow green hats into their countries to get free money. Janet and Joe got free money from the government because legally in their land, they were not working. Their social media profits were paid to a red hat bank they could only spend abroad, and they lived off the free money from their no-hat country. The green hats were annoyed they couldn't wear their hats. A cunning red hat, wearing a green hat, had an underground green hat group that refused to take off the green hats and went to war with the police. One of these green hats found Janet and Joe. He had mental health issues and was convinced that if he wore a suicide vest and killed no hats, he would go to heaven and could wear his green hat every day. So he found Janet and Joe, gave them a hug, and all three of them were reincarnated on Earth. Now all three are here playing a slightly different game.